Hello everybody and welcome into the Bear's Den for the beginning of our everything update. It is the 1st of September, so for those of you who are fully aware of the, garden hell that I live in, that basically means the beginning of the end of my outdoor garden. We're at that point now where everything's on the slow march towards death, and, as usual, I'm panicking because of the amount of harvest I've gotten so far. So, I figured today we'll start in the den. I'll show you briefly the dungeon. We'll head outside and see what's left of the garden. And, maybe y'all can give me some advice for, how I'm going to pass the winter waiting until next June when I can garden outside again. So I've moved the dehydrator up here into the bear's den so that I'm not pepper spraying the whole house. And you can see this massive pile of peppers represents the entirety of my harvest so far. They have been primarily these lemon habs, and that's great. They're a very nice, productive pepper, and I wish I could remember who sent me those seeds from M.I. Gardener. Here are the few peppers that are already dried. But they have been absolutely fabulous, and I think if I had even another month, I would have a massive harvest of these things. So I am really, really appreciative for the opportunity to grow these, and I have ended up saving a few seeds because I just can't help myself, you know. But, right now, that's the entirety of the pepper harvest. I'm going to have to taste one of those before I dry up the rest. But I have been putting them on burgers already, and you know what? They're pretty good. So let's pan over past all this mess here in the bear's den. Got the roulette wheel out, set up a bunch of pepper seeds. So we're going to try some random selection and see what peppers we come up with for the next little AeroGarden seed tray. Let's see, that would be black 17. All of these cups are striped and then have two different numbers on them, so I'll be able to track them down. When I do pull a pepper out of here, I've got a whole bunch more backup peppers here, so I can just fill the spot. And I'm only going to put 10 in there. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to put these three here. I still have to find some black tape, so I'm going to cover those up. But then one pepper here, one there, one there, one there, one there. That'll leave lots of space for them to kind of grow up. And in the in-between places, I'm probably going to put some parsley or just some little useful herbs like that. I kind of cleaned this up a little bit, as clean as it's going to get anyway, because the bathroom sink's not terribly deep. So this is basically ready to go. Its little filter sponge is back in place and everything. So I'll be doing that hopefully pretty soon. And we'll scan down. Hopefully these LEDs won't mess with the camera too bad. I have got to replace this camera. But we can sort of see, the pepper jungle is doing all right. I've still got all of these little solo cup warriors that need to find a new home. But hopefully the camera will do it some justice. Here's the bad brains that was in the AeroGarden. Look at that monster. I've had a few flowers on here open up, and I've tried to pollinate them with a paintbrush. But in the end, they still just keep falling off. So I need to hit that with some more cheater juice. Hopefully they'll stay, and we'll get some good harvests out of that this winter. That said, I wanted to show you my recent cloning success. Well, semi-recent anyway. Some of you may recall just how long ago I cut this off of the bad brains in the AeroGarden. And looking at it, you can see there's a lot of fresh growth. And would you believe, from this monster cutting, I've got some actual root formation. So that is incredibly surprising, kind of thrilling, and somewhat unnecessary, because I don't need a third bad brains plant. But I'm going to plant it anyway, just to see if it can carry on. I really didn't expect anything to come out of this, nothing positive anyway, because it was such a huge cutting, and it has been so thoroughly neglected. I never blacked out the sides of this. I just put it somewhere where I can get a teeny tiny bit of light, and just left it. And that's exactly where it's going to go back right now. This is a north window, so while it does get some light there, it's essentially insignificant amounts of light. So let's put you back so the roots are in the water, and keep on growing, buddy. Since it's the everything update, here's a look at the spider plants over in the studio. I brought up those poor Dieffenbachia from downstairs. This one doesn't look like it's going to make it, but this one's doing all right. Seems to be liking this location, nice and close to the LED shop light. I think this is like 30 or 40 watts per light. I'm not entirely sure anymore, but it's a decent little fixture all the same. Clearly need to water this guy, but you know, houseplant corner, not doing too bad. Let's head on down to the dungeon before we run outside. So here's a look at the Darwin table. Still not moved to a more central location, but there's nothing on here that mice would be overly interested in, so everything seems to be left alone. Got just this one 17-watt LED going right now because when I tried to put the fancy pants LED replacement bulbs into my fluorescent fixture, I got nothing. But these are the bulbs that I put in there. Instant Fit T12 LED replacement, Daylight Deluxe, 2100 lumens, 6500K. So like, I got really excited about this, right? And looking at the end, it does fit. So I'm going to look in the boxes, see if there's any information maybe I should have read first, and hopefully it's just something as stupid as those are in there upside down, and you know, just human/bear error, right? And what's left of the aquaponic garden, it's looking pretty raggedy, especially down here. I trimmed a whole bunch of mint to take to the chickens and then forgot about it, really. We've got some parsley that's still struggling along. Still got a couple of empty spots here, but the sage seems to be doing all right under the changed light bulb, because again, we're running on one of those 17-watt household LEDs right now. Put a couple of spider plants in here, but they had been so long sitting there dying as cuttings. I don't know if that's ever going to come back or not. I'm kind of hopeful. And yeah, the mint looks really scraggly now because I just cut it back a few days ago. But still want to move all of this before I bring the fish back in. So that's going to be interesting because I kind of want to put it here. And as you can see, this is still a massive pile of mess. That light hasn't come on yet because I'm shooting this fairly early in the morning. But you know, dead peppers here, dead peppers there. We got some dead hawthorn there, and a little spruce tree that's somehow struggling on. Dead Dieffenbachia back there. I don't know how this little coffee tree is hanging on. Spite, perhaps? Good on you, buddy. Good on you. Anyway, this light will be coming on in 15-20 minutes or so. The thing with these timers, right, every time we get a power outage, it delays it just that little bit more. Let's see, scanning up around past the junk, we've got the pitcher plant, which, I don't know, haven't seen too many pictures on it lately. Not happy, healthy ones anyway, but if we look at the end, we can see some pretty decent growth. The little solar-powered bear just rocking away under this 15-watt Sansi light that they sent me. And my little devil's ivy, I think someone called that. Seems to be doing all right. A few little spider plants. What a surprise. So, I mean, most of this still needs to get moved upstairs because, well, they're houseplants. So they probably should be somewhere they can be seen, you know. And this year down here, I want to focus on shade-loving edibles, cool weather crops, things like that. I will be starting no peppers down here this year. That's what the Aero Garden's for. Anyway, let us go outside and take a look at some, you know, well, the remainder of the garden out there. All right. So far, the wind isn't too bad. That's why I'm getting started super early this morning. Now that we're outside, though, I'm sure you'll notice when it kicks in. Here we are up front looking at the lemon hab that was planted there. And you can't really see it because of the shadowing, but there we go. A little bit of color forming on one of these, finally. A lot of dead leaves falling off the trees already. Oh, check that. A little bit of color forming on two of these. So this is done all right, but I think 4 years of growing peppers in the same location, it might be time to try something else. Let the soil kind of rebuild itself. Over here, the Caribbean Red, I can see a couple of pods on it. So hopefully those will change in the time we've got left. There's another one there. But it's been getting very close to freezing at night, so I don't know how much of a season we've got left. That's why I've been bringing in basically any of them that take full color, and hopefully that is allowing the rest of them to ripen up faster. The only downfall with these lemon halves is they do seem to take forever to get color, so just gonna have to wait it out. Here we've got the John Deere Crate Garden. Look at this, the I'm in No Rush / Sugar Rush Cream. Where is it? Here we go. Hopefully it won't be too shaded out. Got itty bitty pepper on there. There's no way that sucker's gonna get color, but at least it tried. It's gonna be left out here to die this year, so at least it tried. Love the purple on these Thai basil flowers. This is just very striking with its color. And speaking of striking colors, the pocket flowers bloomed into one of those. So if anybody knows what it is that I've got there, love that little bit of information. But it's nice and pretty, and there are other little flower starts popping up everywhere. Let's change our angle on this a bit. You can see another one here, and a couple more here and here, another one there. I can definitely see why I grabbed it though. Very pretty, nice vibrant orange. Then over here on the tomato plant, the smell of rubbing up against the tomato plant is just, it's another one of those really lovely vibrant smells. Nothing really on that one, but the one beside our flower, nice little cluster of tomatoes on here. Of course, again, you know, they're never going to get ripe at this point, but I'll let them get as much size as possible, and when it looks like the plant is definitely going to die, then we'll bring it in, you know, fry up some green tomatoes and call it good, or make some green tomato relish or green tomato ketchup. I mean, there are plenty of options with tomatoes that haven't quite finished their journey, so that is not a terrible write-off, really. Speaking of tomatoes, look at this beauty. This is one of the Volunteer Indigo Rose, which I'm sure you can tell just by the color of the tomatoes on here. Feeling them though this morning, these are cold. We must have gotten down to like 5 again last night, which in Canadian is not a really warm nighttime temperature. But lots of tomatoes growing on here, and I seriously considered cutting all of these flower formations back, just to let the plant focus its growth on the tomatoes that are here. But because it's an indigo rose, I know they don't have enough time, so I decided to leave the flowers on there, because I'd rather strengthen the local bee populations and let them come for this nectar and have that little bit more honey in their hive to survive the winter. I'm kind of hoping to catch a swarm next spring, so a stronger hive in the winter seems to me better chance of a swarm in the spring. Let's look at these potatoes here behind the tomatoes. Nice little canopy of growth there. Interesting little kind of fluorescent pinky bug. Are we going to get you on the camera? Oh, sounds of the geese. Here's another sign that fall is on its way. Let's get my shadow out of the way here. Look at the back of the patch. You can see this section that kind of looks like it was cut down. This is where those red potatoes were that I just kind of threw in here. Excuse me. We pulled them up the other day, and they were tiny but delicious. And in pulling them up, we noticed there were a few other potatoes forming in here, and I don't want to dig them up too rough, but anyway, it looks like we're going to at least get our dollar's worth out of that. So we're going to let it grow again until the weather says it's time to bring it in, or we want some baby potatoes anyway, and harvest them up, because those cooked so tender and delicious. It was absolutely wonderful. Go back to the pepper patch here, looking at the lemon habanero part of it. It's just, some of these plants are so loaded. I don't think that's coming up well in the camera. For an HD camera, I don't think it does multiple shades of green very well, but there are a lot of pods forming on some of these plants. And then some of them, like this one here, for whatever reason, just never really did anything. It produced that first pepper that got ripe for me, and that's it. This parsley, on the other hand, this went insane. Can't really Oh, you kind of can see the base of the parsley in all of that. We have harvested so much off of this. I'm not sure that the tomato has benefited from having the parsley around, but I really think the parsley has benefited from being with the tomato. So I'm going to have to look into my companion gardening stuff, see if kind of that's how it's supposed to be. Now that I'm kneeling down here, though, I do see yellow pepper kind of off in the back of that one there. So we are getting some color. Let's just grab that now. Oh, you're in there. Come on. There we go. Not what I'd call lemony, but nice and yellow all the same. Guess that brings us to the sister's garden. Corn is not looking fantastical. We did, however, have a couple of nice ears out of there the other day. So it's not a total write-off, it's just pretty close. Some fascinating formations on these beans. We popped one of these open the other day, and even though it looks like they're really big in there, most of them were really quite tiny, and only the bottom two had formed. So kind of letting those go again as long as I possibly can, so that hopefully we will get something of a decent harvest out of there. I know I need to let them dry on the plant to be able to keep them as beans, like for storage and chilies and soups and stews and stuff, I guess, right? And of course for seeds. But I don't think this particular season's going to let that happen. It is fantastic, though, the amount of flowers that they have been producing for us, and these have been very good at keeping the bees well fed for us as well. Alright, I need to switch the battery out here because the video gets all glitchy when my battery dies. And then we'll look at the pumpkins. Alright, so with the fresh battery in, and they don't last long on this POS camera, but here is the largest of our racer pumpkins. No, it's not too bad, not too bad. Got a little while left before we need it to take color. But again, with the rapidly finishing season, I am getting a little nervous about how well these are going to do. Found a few interesting pumpkins trying to shoot up in strange places. Let's see if I can find some of them for you today on the camera. There was one that was trying to pop up and grow kind of suspended in the corn. It may have gotten enough weight now that it's dropped. Let me know if you see any hiding in this shot here. But I mean, I think the lesson with the squash this year, aside from the fact that I really should have planted them out a little bit better, was that they need more room from the corn. Everybody talks about this three sisters gardening and planting them right together, but look what's happened here. My squash has thoroughly, well, my pumpkins, has thoroughly squished and squashed any of the corn that was trying to grow up here. It's gotten, oh, hey, there's a pumpkin. It's gotten very little light, so look how short that one is. And it really hasn't done much for it. So I'm going to grow these as their own separate bed next year. Probably a good 5-10 feet at least away from everything else. And hopefully they'll do better. Hopefully the corn will do better. Look at that, another itty bitty baby pumpkin. No way that sucker's going to make it, but good on you for trying. Looking at the corn here, this is just way too crowded. I couldn't help myself. I just wanted to get all of those corn seeds into the one patch, and honestly didn't believe there were 200 in there. So I thought I would have enough space to put them about 6 to 8 inches apart. Excuse me, I know now this wasn't the case, and there were in fact all of those seeds in there, so I ended up with a harshly overplanted area. But what well, I'll show you when I do it, but I have I have a plan for a super easy corn planting jig. I'll still end up on my hands and knees, but I'm not going to end up spending $250 on a planter just so I get some decently spaced corn. As with so many of my little DIY simplicity projects, you're going to laugh at just how simple this is. While we're still at this patch, let's take a look at those volunteer tomatoes. Got nice and tall. Again, they're still putting on a lot of flowers. And again, I'm leaving those for the bees so that they can build a stronger hive and colony. Because it's more important to me to have the bees strong and healthy than it is to get a few volunteer tomatoes off of this volunteer plant. I'd rather they have the pollen, which is part of why I haven't been cutting down these thistles, even though they're going to flower, which means there's going to be more thistle weeds all over my yard next year. Oh, here's a nice one. Look at this volunteer dill. It popped up in the corn. It's beautiful and fantastic, especially considering we've had issues intentionally growing dill. So it's lots of fun that we've got some random ones growing here. I don't know if you can see it in the angle, but we've got a monster dill growing over in that one pepper patch too. So that is going to be interesting, watching it take over the garden eventually. I would be curious to know just how many species of plants are in this one garden patch. I know there are at least the 3 intentionals, you know, and then thistles and dill make 2 more, and we've got lamb's quarter, so that's another one. But a lot of the pasture stuff that I've been looking into says 12 to 16 species, and you're almost guaranteed that you'll make it through drought-like conditions. So thinking of all the assorted weeds that are in here, you know, I wonder if that's why this little garden patch looks so lush. It's because of all the mycorrhizal fungi and, you know, everything working in relationship to each other to pass the nutrients around that they do or don't need, right? It's kind of fascinating, all this stuff I'm learning, and I'm able to listen to these lectures at work now, so that's fantastic. It's a little shard patch. Haven't eaten anywhere near as much of this as I was hoping we would, but the chickens have been loving it, and it's so good for them. Back here in what was the Sausage Fest pumpkin patch, you see we've got at least one forming there. Not quite as big as our prize winner out front, but still not too shabby. And the sunflowers. This is the closest I got to sunflower flowers. This one here is not too fantastic. This one here almost made it. Now these were planted from seed outside pretty much as soon as the season would allow. So next year I'm going to try planting the seeds as soon as I can work the soil, and I'm also going to try planting some mammoth sunflower seeds downstairs, because they didn't seem to have a problem starting in the cooler temperatures, and the aphids didn't really seem to be too terribly fond of them. So I'm really hoping that with a little bit more work, a little bit better timing, I can finally get some sunflower seeds. And then we've got this year's sad little carrot patch. Still got a little bit of time to grow because they're kind of more tolerant of cooler temperatures. So I'm hoping that we will get something a little bigger than these out of it, but they're adorable, but not too terribly filling. And then if we go over here, this was originally built as a potato box, and wouldn't you know, we actually have some potatoes popping up in here. So again, we're going to let them go kind of as long as we can, and when it's time, we'll just see what we get out of here, because I don't remember putting too many taters in here this year. I think we threw a couple in that had gone, you know, a little, what's the word? I almost want to say seedy, but they're not. They had kind of started to form roots, but not really. Whatever, you know what potatoes look like when they're ready to go to the compost, so we just threw them in here instead. Panning over, the rhubarb is not looking too happy this year, but it is still alive, so year by year that gets better. And here we have our pear tree. Look at that, still standing fairly upright. Branches are starting to spread out a little bit. Looks like this guy survived moving to the farm here, and experimental farm as it is, and being transplanted, shoved in and out of a car so rudely. Impressive though, I mean, considering how tall this puppy is, that I was able to get it into our little Ford Fusion. I think we packed this a little better than I had initially suspected, so might not get as much flattening of that as I had initially said, but whatever, it's all good, right? And that's pretty much a wrap up on this beautiful sunny September 1st. Yeah, thank you all for sticking around and sticking through all of these camera issues and stuff that I've been having. I really appreciate your patience. And this camera is is really, really, it's on its way out as soon as I can afford to replace it. I was down at Best Buy in the Corral Center in Brandon there, looking at a couple of, I want to say cheaper, but they cost twice what I'm holding here. But there's a Sony very much like the one I used to use, and there is a Canon also very much like that, except the Canon had a mic plug in it. So I'm very intrigued by that, but at the same time, I'm at a point of once bitten, twice shy. The Sony was so good to me for so many years, and this camera has been such a bag of poo. I'm half tempted to try and get the Sony, even though it doesn't have the mic plug. So let me know down in the comments below, as a viewer, what was more important to you, the consistency of the video quality, or would you prefer to have a more consistent sound and deal with the inconsistent video qualities? And also, I'd be curious to know, Sony versus Canon, just kind of in general, what have your experiences been? What have been the experiences of people that you are familiar with? And what do you think is probably going to be a better purchase, keeping in mind that they are both pretty much the same price? So yeah, with that, I'm going to say much love to you all, my garden friends. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead, and I hope you've enjoyed this little look around at the beginning of the end of my outdoor garden. So yes, happy September to all of you parents in Canada whose kids are just starting to go back to school. It is in fact the most wonderful time of the year, isn't it? And to all of you American parents whose kids have already gone back to school, you lucky buggers, I hope you got them their school supplies. Don't forget to give them some fruits and veggies in their lunches. That goes for everybody. And yeah, I don't know. Much love, everybody. I will see you next time.